Hello, listeners of the Mad Scientist Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Cogswell. I am joined by Marie Mayhew, as always, here on the roundtable. Say hi, Marie.
Hello, dear listeners.
Wonderful. And we're joined by Flora from Blurry Photos.
Hi, everybody. It's Flora.
How's it going,
from
man?
Blurry Photos.
It's Flora from Blurry Photos.
It's going well.
Blurry Photos.
It's
Blurry
half,
Photos for
half
listeners.
Of the Dave.
It's half of a Dave.
Yeah.
No, it's a
half
full
of
Dave.
the Daves. It's a full
Half
Dave.
of the Daves.
Half of a pair. Half of the set.
It's the pepper. No, actually, you know what?
Pepper.
It's probably more the salt. I am a salty as fuck. So sorry, I broke that. I broke the swear seal.
You just went straight out. Went straight out with it. That's good. That was fucking ingenious of you to just sort of take the pressure off.
We're not even a minute in. We've already got one F-bomb.
There you go. This is what I bring to the table.
Nice. This is the kind of quality we are talking about, listeners. If you haven't listened to Blurry Photos, you have to listen to it. It's one of my favorite podcasts. Dave, give us a rundown of what you guys do on the show.
Sure, thank you. It is a podcast about the unexplained, the paranormal, cryptozoology, conspiracies, history, weird stuff in general. My co-host Dave Stecco and I like to say we explore the unexplained and explain the unexplored, and we do it with an open but skeptical mind, and we try to keep it light. Try to make sure things aren't too super serial on there.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite comedy podcasts and also one of my favorite paranormal podcasts. So
Absolutely.
it's an amazing show. No worries. We're constantly trying to get to your guys' level, so it's pretty solid. To now have you here, and so now we're just not going to say anything.
It's a
We'll
coup.
put you straight up on the spot. It's a coup.
It's a coup. I was, we were told to be on our best behavior, and be extra impressive, which we've already kind of fucked up. So if you got that,
We're not impressive at all.
not impressive.
So
And,
we were.
yeah.
So, okay, before we get into this episode, actually, I just wanted to relate a little story. We're in the process right now of trying to figure out if we want to work with some, like paranormal investigation groups and stuff.
Sure.
And one of the things that we were worried about was, we're kind of a more scientifically oriented show.
Right.
And so it was,
With fart jokes.
With fart jokes, that's fine, But so, we don't want to lose our street cred for being smart, cool people,
Of
by
course.
trying to find fake ghosts or whatever. And then
Yes.
I was talking to Marie about it, and Marie goes, "What's the worst that they're gonna do? Lose our credibility for us?" Oh my god! It's like, come on! We have we're credible.
That's true.
We're so
We
true.
have credible. We have credible guys. Come
Yeah,
on.
I think credibility is it's kind of a stretch. It's not that it's not credible. It's just like, I don't know, in the spectrum of science and credibility, we're not exactly NPR type of credible. Nobody hears Charlie Rose exactly, but
NPR isn't NPR anymore. Who cares?
that's
Yeah,
true. That's true.
seriously, I listened to a show from NPR the other day that was just like gossip, basically, like gossip
Seriously?
about celebrities. Yeah, it was great.
Really?
Well, I mean, okay, there's
Oh.
like more to it than that too, but pretty much like pop culture stuff. But
Well-
I do also listen to all kinds of other weird NPR stuff. So,
It's because they've got a show on everything now. But
Yeah.
to steer the train like you can do with a train. You guys, we just had a discussion of this. Dave and I just had a discussion of this ourselves. Like, we've gotten to the point where we have come across, met, read, about authors that have these really, let's say, out there theories on things. We just went to the Milwaukee Paranormal Conference and talked to a very nice lady about raising our vibrations and having beings on every planet that we just can't see because they're in a higher state of existence, and the world will one day get to that point where we'll all, raise our vibrations, the frequency's going to go up, and we're all going to be peace, love, and harmony, because of Age of Aquarius, and that it's going to get worse before it gets better. And it's just like, you're a very nice lady, and she ended it with saying, I would love to come on your podcast sometime and talk to you about it. And we were like, oh, okay, we'll take your card. And then Dave and I just afterwards, we were like, how do we connect these Legos? We are a podcast that very clearly 99% of the time are like, here's the rational explanation because common sense. And, maybe 1% of the time we're like, well, there could be something to this. And it's a hard needle to thread when you want to talk to people about these things, but at the same time, you don't want to be an asshole to them because, good manners, right? But
yeah. Well, and if harmonic convergence is going to happen, it's going to happen in Milwaukee.
That's the epicenter of it.
That.
I mean, because brats.
Yeah, I'll give her that.
It's like a tuning fork.
Brats.
Beer and brats are the keys to raising your vibration.
All that jelly meat goodness.
Yeah, that's what's done it for me all these years.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Truly amazing.
I definitely have more vibrations on me because of it.
It's beer and brats.
Well, we had
cheap beer, not the expensive stuff. No.
No,
Classic.
the cheap beer and the processed
beast.
meats. That's what does it.
Yes, Milwaukee's beast.
We had an interesting, similar thing happen where we had someone reach out to us who wanted to talk about, the reptilian agenda.
Oh, yes.
And it was kind of like,
we're all, which one, man? Have to get a little bit more specific than
First
that.
off, how do we know that he's not a reptile trying to trick us?
Disinfo.
Right, it's all disinfo. But also, you want to talk about this stuff, but at the same time, we try really hard to give the listeners the facts as we have come to find them out or understand them to be.
Sure, yeah.
And so it's just by it's kind of that weird thing that the news always gets into too, where it's like, if you have someone on to discredit a theory or an idea, but that what they're discrediting is true, right? So you have someone who's coming on the air to talk about how global warming isn't happening or something,
right?
It's like, that is it all right to have that, in the sake of philosophical argument or whatever, it's fine, I suppose, but at a certain level, by even giving them that soapbox to stand on. Exactly, right. Yeah. You kind of validate what they're saying. That being said, if you want me to come out and talk about the reptilian agenda at your conference or news channel,
dude, we've got so much content for that.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
I have 5 PowerPoints.
5
all ready to go on the reptilian agenda.
Welcome to the Mad Scientist Podcast, Halloween special with blurry photos.
All right, let's get into this actual episode's contents here. We're thinking, so it's Halloween time. We're thinking we're going to go through our top fears. I was thinking the top 10 list of our greatest fears. I was thinking it'd be cool to kind of go around, to whatever. Dave, since you're, the guest here, you can go first, then Marie, then I'll go. Although it sounds like Marie's fear is an all-encompassing one that is,
don't you worry. I can get 10 things out of this that you believe me. Once you hear what the fear is, you guys will be like, there's no reason that we shouldn't be talking about this. Is everyone's fear.
We came up, I came up with the idea for this episode. Actually, technically, Katie came up with the idea for this episode and was like, oh, you should do an episode on this for Halloween. And so then we reached out to you guys, but the whole time Marie was like, oh, I got one. I was like, Marie, we need your top 10 biggest fears, and she's like, oh, it's fine, we're good.
It's all right. I don't need it. I've got a horse-sized duck. It's all right.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Dave, Give
All
us
right.
a fear.
So, like Maria, I didn't come up with 10 total, but I've got like 7 or 8. Just cause, man, I'm such a manly man, and I'm not scared of anything, you guys. Just
Sure, I understand.
I can
Laugh
face
in
it
the
all.
face. Laugh in the face of fear.
Now, there are a couple things that that I worry about, and I don't know how much you guys want to go into it, like the breakdown between, like, you know, what is fear, what is scary, what is creepy, what is, you know, like how that relates. I guess we can do that as we go along, but like there are things that I'm afraid of that I'm sure, you know, are the same thing that we're all afraid of, like just losing loved ones, you know, like having having someone close being taken away from you,
Sure.
just
Yeah.
you know, of course we're all probably scared of that. Things like, and do you want me to go down like all of them, or do you want to go back and forth, or how should we do this?
You know what? Let's just do all of them. But I mean, we're already like, I'm ready to cry.
I know,
Right.
dude.
No,
Right.
I'm just kidding. I'm just
I
kidding.
know.
No, yeah, no. Let's go. Just go. Yeah, go ahead. Give us.
So-
give us your list. Give us your list of fears. Let's hear 'em.
Okay. And I don't know that these are necessarily in order, but I'll try to put the heavier hitters towards the end. One thing that really makes me angry, feared, are thugs. Just straight up bad
thugs?
people, like
Thugs.
muggers, people who want to just steal, you know, like the vultures that come in and loot when there's, like, you know, fires raging across the landscape.
Sure.
Yes.
Just like, God, it makes me so mad and so afraid that, you know, I'm gonna, because I think what I'm afraid of is that somebody's gonna stop me on the street, and if it's one person, which probably never happens anymore, but if it's one person, I'm afraid I'd be that stupid idiot who would be like, yeah, here's my wallet, wha-pow, wha-pow, wha-bam, right in the throat,
Right.
you know, and then I get shot. And
Right.
Because you were
Right in the
striking out
throat.
angrily at the air in front of him. Yeah, maybe.
because they're like 10 feet away pointing a gun at me. And I'm not the Flash. So, like,
You can't hit what you can't see. Like, you throw down a smoke pellet.
right. But it's one of those you have to light, and so it, like, takes forever. It's just laying there on the ground.
You're like,
Right.
you're like,
Yeah,
hold
let
on,
me-
my Zippo's here. Wait, hold on. Can you just hold this?
Yeah. Let me get my wallet. Oh, do
Yeah,
you smell
hold this.
smoke?
Yeah.
What is that?
I have a really
Oh,
elaborate
boy.
security system on my wallet. Just wait. So, you know, but the more likely scenario, I think, would probably be that there's a gang of muggers or attackers or thugs that come around and basically, because this happens that in Chicago, like, all the time we hear on the news, like, there's a roving gang of muggers that have been just kind of it's like a flash mob mug. You know, they all
okay.
converge on one or two people and beat the shit out of them, take everything, and then they're gone. And, like, that just, I'm just like, man, that, it's cowardly and
You know-
stupid and pointless. And anyways, so that's
Sure.
probably on the lower end, since it also makes me so mad. But, what
You know
else
what's
do we
interesting?
got?
So before we move on from that one, so
Sure.
I actually had an experience like that when I was in high school. It wasn't I didn't get mugged or anything, but I was on. We used to take, my high school was like the high school for nerds in New York, right? Like they took all the nerdy kids and they stuck them into one school in Staten Island, and like gave us a subscription to like AutoCAD, and they're like, go design sprockets, you stupid nerds. And like that's what we did, right? And so, and like we redesigned sprockets a lot. That was
How
like,
was your
that was my
your football team that good?
our football. Okay, our foot.
The
so our
fighting
school,
sprockets.
Our school, for the point of having, specifically to have, because our school wasn't big enough to have its own sports team, so they just put us together with another school in
my
like
gosh.
the hardened part of Staten Island for our sports team.
Wow.
And so it was like our sports team, like the water boy would be from our school, and like the football players would be from this other school where the kids were ginormous. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
and I don't even know. I don't even know if we played football games. I never went to one. Like maybe we did. I don't know.
Good chance that you didn't. Just gonna throw it out there.
I don't know. I have no idea. Anyways, so where our school was located is in a part of New York where there's like a really bad high school, or like bad statistically, I guess. Like I knew a lot of friends that went there that were like, oh, it's totally safe, but like the kind of school that to go in the mornings, you went through a metal detector every day.
Yeah.
Because kids had guns. The cops would like patrol the neighborhood with like full riot gear and shit, just in case some kid went wild. And so our train station, it was like all the nerdy kids would hang out on our end, and then all the kids from the other school would hang out on their end. And it started happening where these like a bunch of kids, like maybe like I don't know, like 5 or 6 kids from that other school would come over to our end and like just try to start shit with people. And so one day I had enough of it, and I was like, why do you even come down here? Like, what's your fucking problem?
Oh god,
And
this does not end well.
This kid faked, like he pretended like I had tripped him or something.
Oh, right.
And so then he got in my face, and then his friend started getting in my face too after I was arguing back and forth. And his friend had these like really pretty blue eyes. I'm masculine enough to say this man had beautiful blue eyes. And
Sure.
I called him Blue Eyes.
Oh god.
I was like, what are you gonna do to me, pretty blue eyes? And he didn't like that one bit. So then like one of their friends got behind me and like pinned my arms, and the one kid was like, I think the kid just like slapped me or something. Then I kicked him in the gut, and it just ended up being this like a fight basically where it was like me versus these 4 to 5 other kids.
Right.
And no one really got hurt. It got like once these kids realized someone was gonna, because like the reason they were coming down from their end was because they were clearly getting harassed and shit on
Sure.
by the actual tough guys at their school, right? And but still, like from that day forward, going to the train, I was petrified because the next
And that's your mom's number one fear right there. So you just gave it to her. That's great. She's now listening to this. We're sorry, Dora. We didn't mean to go down this path.
Oh,
She's like,
no.
What?
My mom's greatest fear
Chris?
is that I'm gonna get like cancer or something from something that she didn't feed me. Like I'm gonna get lack of ravioli-itis and I'll die.
That's a real
You know,
thing.
you know what I mean? Like that's my
It's a
mom's
real
greatest
thing.
fear. Anyways, so I understand that fear for sure.
Yeah.
You know, it's because it sucked.
Yeah.
But anyways, okay, so let's say what, group violence, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Or,
Random
like,
violence.
And mobs.
Just violence.
Mobs
Just
are
violence.
shitty.
Mobs and violence
Mobs.
generally. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
scary. Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I like seriously. I hate to be such a little whingy bitch about this, but like I did have a hard time thinking of things that actually like I sit around and I'm scared of. But like, again, something nobody wants to have happen is the house burns down. You know, just a house fire or.
That's
fire
on my list too.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Okay, good.
especially with the fires out here that we just had
Yeah.
in Northern California. I mean, I know I work with people that lost their home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
and
sucks.
sort of the amount of terror, like basically this one doctor I work with, he got a call and he literally like, you know, picked up thinking it was the service and it was one of his friends or something just calling to check to see if they're, you know, and he was like, no, it's really far away. And he's like, but I do smell smoke, let me look outside. And he goes to the window, he looks out, and they're in the process of evacuating.
Ugh.
So basically they took whatever they got the pets, and just got out. And it's
Jeez.
like, I think that is just horrific. And like, you probably you're on such adrenaline that you probably don't even recognize what's going on until
Yeah, or
much
how
later.
bad. Yeah.
Oh,
I hate that.
I hear it.
Ugh.
Oh,
So let's see. How about like an infestation of something, like like you know,
nice.
rats or just crap that gets in the walls, or like some kind of biting insect or bug, or like, you know, just stuff like that is maybe you're not even maybe it's coming from like a different apartment, or you picked up something off the public transportation and you don't even know about it, and all of a sudden it's out of control like that. I'm just like, God, please don't let me have to deal with that.
Have you ever heard of? So this is, again, Dave. We're having like a lot of the same stuff on our list here, which is good. I
Makes
guess.
me feel better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's actually a subreddit I go on all the time, which is called tryptophobia, which is like the fear of small things in groupings, right?
Okay.
And it's kind of like and the way I used to. So one thing that we're gonna get into when I get into my fears is I've always had really vivid nightmares like throughout my entire life, probably from being fat my entire life. Like my brain's not getting enough air because the donut is stuck on my neck, right? But so the Big Mac just weighs the fucking air pipe down. But anyways, if
we all end up in
I've got a
therapy
new
after
fear now.
this- I know. If we all end up in therapy after this, Chris,
my bad.
yeah,
We're gonna be fine. We got listeners who are therapists. We'll be fine. Anyways, so one of my dreams used to be like, I would wake up like I would almost be drowning, but it'd be like not in a pool of liquid. It'd be like a pool of jelly beans.
Oh yeah.
Or like a thing of sand.
Sure.
Right? Like things that are small but big enough to be picked out individually.
Yeah.
And like now, whenever I see like a thing of ants or like a beehive shape it gives me chills.
Huh. Yeah.
It freaks me the fuck out.
Were you
Gross.
Were you not a fan of DuckTales? Because Scrooge McDuck used to swim in that big vault.
I like that's the thing. I don't know why there's like a level of it. I can go in ball pits and stuff. That doesn't bother me. Gold coins for some reason doesn't freak me out. But if it's like
because gold,
it's I'm rich. It's so specific. Like that's the thing. Trying to describe it to people, it's like I'm afraid of I'm afraid of things at the macro scale in the size range between like billiard balls down to like grains of sand. Right? Any large grouping in there freaks me out.
Good spectrum. You've got the spectrum worked out, right?
Right.
Sort of all right, here, this is where it is.
that egg pit.
Causal fear spectrum. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. All right, cool. Wow.
Okay, so-
well, Dave.
Yeah.
You're making my skin crawl already, dude.
All right. Mobs and sand pits.
Scary.
Let's see. So the next one, I think I'm gonna kind of bundle the next couple together. This is probably my number one. I think it is an out of control militarized police, and this I'm gonna bundle together with like an authoritative government. Or maybe, like a crazy oligarchy or just the rich. Fuck them in general. And then...
So wait. So far...
This is a very timely fear. I think that
So
this is
far...
probably going to be very easily identifiable for a lot of people.
So far, Dave, you've basically said you're afraid of criminals, the police, the rich... Are you afraid of us?
I don't leave the house.
I'm just afraid of fucking everyone, man.
Well, so...
I mean, yeah, kind of. That's kind of true for me. That's kind of true for me, so yeah, okay.
So the government, the rich, they do not have our best interests at heart. I will go on any record saying that, and fuck them all.
Yeah.
If they don't like what you are doing, if you don't like what they're doing, and they don't like that you don't like that, hey, they've got mercenaries. They've got friggin' Blackwater. They've got a newly militarized police that they keep throwing, armor, gear, even fucking tanks in some cases.
But no negotiation hostage training, no...
Exactly.
No
Yeah, so like it's getting to that point in these where you see, you've seen these dystopian movies and these I guess I wouldn't say post-apocalyptic, but in some cases, in the books and stuff where, if those who have the power want to just bust in your door and destroy you and your life and your loved ones, they can do it. And I really feel like we're closer to that than people realize.
Oh yeah.
And that, like, somebody just busting in the door one day out of nowhere, just because maybe they don't like that I've said fuck the rich, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh well, look here, this guy had like child porn everywhere, and this guy sold stuff to the Russians, and so we got him, everybody, good job, mission accomplished, we got him. And nobody will know the difference because they control the media too, so they'll just spread whatever rumors they want, but we could be just sitting in our homes one day. God, I sound like a paranoid kook living out in the woods.
No, well, a skosh, but the erosion of your civil rights, just and how it starts very, very subtly and very slowly, I think, is what is very chilling in a lot of ways too, and how it's almost, there are textbook sort of plays that come out of any kind of authoritative regime, right? They start vilifying the press. Right. They start dissociating themselves with other countries. It's, I mean, there's, I think what's hard about that is it is terrifying. And it's terrifying too because I know a lot of people, I think really quickly, I got really worked up about when Snowden came out with with PRISM, right? With the whole NSA, looking at, basically having access into all of our information. And a lot of people I know didn't really think it was a big deal because they were like, well, I don't have anything to hide. So what's the big deal? Sure. I don't have anything to hide. And I'm like, that right there is the big, like the fact that that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is that you're American and you have these rights. And even though you don't have something to hide, that doesn't mean that you still couldn't be vilified.
Right,
so
I think
that
people shouldn't be looking in on your private life just because they want
exactly. And I think that sort of, not exactly apathy, but that sort of like soil that these seeds can get planted in is what really is, to me, like very frightening too.
You know what's funny is actually, I would say that is definitely like, yeah, that's definitely totally valid fear, I would say today, like we were just saying, right? I mean, but the thing is too that I find two things really interesting with it. First off, I'm just gonna say for me personally, it's actually the opposite of that I find really scary, which is not to say that I don't find the encroachment on civil liberties and things scary, and the encroachment on privacy and the encroachment on the ability of you to be set up at any point or whatever. All of that I do find very scary, but I almost find the reaction to that in the sense of like militia groups and prepping and stuff like that I almost find scarier, because it's like putting people into a mentality where like there are people hoping for the end of the world.
Sure.
Right now.
Yeah.
That exists.
Like it's a siege mentality, right? They're
exactly.
Ready, they're just ready for it. Yeah.
Right, but not only ready, but like accepting of it or hopeful, right? I mean, there's religious reasons to be hopeful potentially for the end of the world. There's political, ideological reasons to be excited, and it's kind of, and the thing that's fun. The other point that I was going to make about that is, I find it really interesting that fear that we're all expressing of the government encroaching on us and taking away liberties, and right, this idea of government is overpowerful, is the fear that has been used by both sides in America to such great extent in the last 50 to 60 years, right?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
It's the fear of, either the Democrats are going to become super socialist and Bernie's going to take all of our, I don't know, a lot of those arguments
take our guns.
Like a lot of those are, well, besides guns, a lot of those arguments always seem to use cows And it's like, I don't even know anyone that owns a fucking cow. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure they do.
Well, yeah.
I've seen cows out there, but
Bernie Sanders
anyways.
is going to take your cows? He's going to take your livestock?
Like,
think
you know,
it's
like
that,
it's like the distribution of wealth, that stupid meme,
Right.
that grandma forward that always goes around, right? But then on the other side, where kind of I think the three of us are more coming from, is the fear of like a police state,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
fear of a state, of a moralistic ideal of like, we need to protect people by looking at all the stuff you do at home, you know? It's a super common fear for, I think, all peoples, and it's one that we should
easily
fucking do something
exploitable.
about. It's extremely easily exploitable, but it's also I think it's that fear too that, like, I wish we had the rights to play the Star Spangled Banner behind us now when we say this, but it's one of the fears that helped found this great country of ours. Anyways, yeah. So okay, I hear you on that one for
Yeah.
sure, man.
Yeah.
That's
Ugh.
scary.
Yeah, that's got to be my number one. Just letting a police state take over. It's just barf. And then I guess I'll do a like honorable mention to stuff that startles me. I'm not afraid of it per se, but like small
Loud noises.
Yeah, loud noises, small quick things. Like, I'm not scared of spiders or snakes, but if I look down and see one be like, I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a spider. Okay, you're cool then.
Oh no, a spider.
Oh, God,
Yeah.
it's a spider. I saw it quickly, and it's faster than I am. Also, shout out to Donut on my windpipe. That's got to be a...
It's a good
Oh,
one.
man. Don't
a scary one.
Pipe. Oh,
So Marie,
yes.
let's hear
Big
your big
fear.
fear that you haven't told me about
The big-
for like
The big fear.
a month.
Ever since you brought it up, well, I'm glad to hear that Dave, doesn't have too much of a fear of like snakes or spiders or anything like that, because that shit's gonna change after this fear.
I was gonna tell you that the thank you package we're sending you guys would not have landed very well had that been the case.
No. But after this, so my big fear is the 6th largest country in the world. It's 2.5 million square miles. It's Australia. Let me tell you why I'm scared of Australia.
Your biggest fear is Australia?
Yeah. Motherfucking Australia. Let me tell you why. You should be scared of Australia. First of all, you don't even need me. You could stop this recording but you could just stop right now and just Google why Australia wants to kill you and see what comes up, because there's no shortage of websites. There are, and I'm serious about this. Like, we started to think about like, what would be really fun is if we could go see the Great Barrier Reef and we could snorkel, and it seems like a really good place for tourism. There's over 520 different species of spiders in Australia. Okay? There is saltwater crocodiles that are over 20 pounds. Or sorry, over 20 feet long. Over 4,000. I know, 20 pounds. That's just one of
It's
the
a toddler. Saltwater toddlers.
That's over 4,000 pounds and 20 feet long. All right, so just pretend like, let's just break it down geographically. So you've got the water. So you want to snorkel. That sounds great. There's like 3 of the most vicious sharks: the bull shark, the tiger shark, and the great white shark are prevalent in Australia's water. If you just want to maybe just kind of walk around, just wade, you don't want to get too far out there, be sure that you don't step on a cone snail, which has a radiolar tooth that launches like a harpoon and has a neurotoxin. Let's see, what else do I got here? Let me just go to page 4 of what can
Drop
kill
bears.
you. I know. Well, I was like, shit, drop bears. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to get to them. But, okay, then there's the stonefish, which is just like a flat-looking fish that is just sort of lays still. It looks exactly like a rock. It's covered with needle-like spines. that can puncture the skin and again can kill you because neurotoxin.
And that one actually kills you pretty. I think both of those kill you pretty quickly.
They kill you pretty quickly.
Which is scary.
The blue-ringed octopus species, the only species fatal to human. Thank you, Australia. You don't feel it bite you, but you will die within a few minutes. The box jellyfish, which is again just swimming around, just floating around, just out there, kills you. And then there's a tiny itsy bitsy. It's called the Urangi jellyfish. It's no bigger than a fingernail. Toxic. They swim in swarms. Toxic.
We're gonna get letters from listeners in Australia being like,
Fuck.
I survived.
Yeah.
But if you have lived in, listen, because like the thing is too, like, I've heard, there's all these things online where it's like Australia is terrifying and everything, and it is legitimately terrifying. If you are surviving on Australia right now and you've made it to the age where you're listening to this podcast, you're just tougher than I am.
You are much tougher.
That's it.
Than
You're much tougher than I am. That's just amazing.
Okay, so so like saltwater crocodile again. It's they lay in wait. They ambush. They grab you
Crocodile
and then they go
Dundee.
into and death roll. They go into a death
That's
roll.
scary
Yes.
too. Crocodile Dundee
right?
is scary.
Fuck yeah. So okay, that's just
That
the
guy?
water. That's just the water. So you're like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to go in the water because there's so many deadly things in the water. Well, you're still pretty fucked. I mean, like, there's 21 out of the 25 world's most deadly snakes.
Doesn't Australia too have? Oh, they have like thunderbird sightings, right?
So hold up, my friend.
We're getting to the skies.
Just
Right. So far we said you can't be on water, you can't be on land. The only
wait, hold
refuge
on,
is the
hold on.
sky.
No. So giant centipedes, about 6.5 inches long, venomous.
Did you guys see that picture, that article going around of the giant centipede eating the snake?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know where that was from? Australia.
Australia.
Fucked.
Okay. The eastern
Australia.
brown snake, second most venomous in the world. And then there's the cassowary bird, which
Oh,
I believe
yeah,
is the
those
one you're
things are
talking
assholes,
about.
right?
Oh.
It's a flightless bird, so it's not going to fly. It's going to be 6 feet tall, very colorful. They can jump up to 5 feet. They can run 30 miles an hour, and they can swim. And if you look at them funny, they've got that like the raptor-like claw. They just kind of punch you and take you out.
Well, I believe that they actually evolved from them and the other like giant like emus and ostriches and things. Evolved from like bipedal dinosaurs like raptors.
Yeah.
And actually that claw, they can eviscerate you with it.
Yeah.
It's literally like that scene in Jurassic Park in the beginning where he's like, "Hey kid, you want to pee your pants?" And then he claws the thing across his belly.
Yeah.
And he's like, "And then your guts spill out." All right, go back to your mom. We'll see you later. Ha ha ha. Terrifying.
Yeah, except that's walking around in Australia, just looking
No,
for
it's
a
alive
fight,
now.
just looking for a fight to pick, right? There's pythons and snakes everywhere, pretty much. There's the funnel web spider, which again is like highly toxic, will kill you. I feel like you can say that pretty much for any of these things, and that is pretty much like sea or land. You've got that, or you have the gimpy plant, which is a real thing, which is just this.
Which is a real thing.
Which is a real thing, which I didn't, because I was like, well, so you got all these animals, but like, plants that could kill you. They have plants that like, just don't look like anything, just look like a normal bush. You touch it, shooting pain, dementia, hallucinations.
Dementia?
Yeah. Well, not dementia, but I mean, you will get.
Okay, I was gonna say
Something close.
dementia is like a persistent, like it caught.
Oh.
You get tax fraud.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like
You
it
get
takes
audited.
a long time to even be diagnosed as dementia. Like what?
All right, so maybe I was getting a little.
Somebody backs into your car.
No, he just sideswipes it with a shopping cart. That's all.
Yeah.
And then there's also the flying foxes, which are more unlikely to kill you, but host 2 life-threatening viruses. So, you've got all that good stuff. So yeah, I mean, I just feel like Australia's just it's just crazy. And so I don't know if it's, on the sciencey angle, I don't know if it's like, what is it about Australia that has all of this venomous shit in one place?
Yeah, that's
is
actually
that,
a really interesting question.
or is it just because it's just better known and this stuff exists everywhere? I don't know. I don't think so.
I think it actually probably has more to do, like, again, I am not a biologist. So, yeah.
But
And I don't think, I mean, none of us here have a specialty in evolutionary biology, do we? I mean, I'm not, you know.
Not that I've
One,
claimed.
I was a credit away.
I was gonna say I don't want to speak for Dave here, but I don't think any of us are evolutionary biologists. But yeah, like I would hazard a guess to say that it's actually because Australia gets a bad rap because we expect it to be America with a boomerang. You know what I mean? Like we expect America to be like kind of tanned with a funny accent and a Dundee hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know his name is Crocodile's his first name and Dundee's his second name, by the way.
Yes, that's why that was the movie. Yes.
Okay. Oh no, yeah. That's so obvious, Chris. When I was a kid, I thought crocodile. I thought being a
I'm
Dundee.
trying to be an asshole. I thought it kind of.
I thought Dundee was like a title.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
So like you
Like
could be a
barrister?
Dundee and
like
yeah,
Captain
exactly.
Crocodile.
yeah, exactly. No, exactly. So I thought he was like the Crocodile Dundee. Not that his name was Crocodile Dundee.
His profession was Dundeeing.
Exactly.
It's Dundee, whatever that is.
I was a stupid kid. Anyways,
Go ahead.
So I would say it probably has something to do with it being tropical.
Is it? But this is it?
I would say, yeah, I would think so because
There's all kinds of.
when things are so like generally when things are colder, you don't want to expend as much energy hunting. You mostly lie in wait and like hibernate and stuff. That's what I would hazard to say. I would also say that because of the heat and the abundance of flora.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Come on, Marie. You got to give me that. That was good.
With the abundance of flora, it is a very flora abundant. 91% is covered with
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
It is very
okay. Marie, Dave's last name is Flora.
Oh, well, that's funny too. I'm still horrified. I'm still living in fear of
Marie's looking at papers like these fucking snakes and spiders and shit, dude.
Seriously, like what? Like everyone's
Okay,
like, no.
Add
So-
another fear that someone doesn't get one of my jokes.
yeah, not landing right. So so I would say as well, it's a hotter climate, so there's more abundance of available food, and so there's more competition for life spring. I wanted to say there's more competition for animals, and so the ones that are the most specialized and therefore the ones that have the most extreme variations, I would say, are probably the
Everything
most
is
likely.
extreme. Like that's the thing. There's not like a single thing out there, but it feels like the majority of the animals, the birds, the fish, the insects, they're all venomous motherfuckers. I mean,
You know
all
what,
of
though?
them
Like,
are.
but I-
And none of them's just
but I
like,
would
oh,
say-
you get a little rash, or oh, you know what, doesn't have any interest in fucking with you. No, they all are.
Well, I would say the thing is too that like it's like I would say that's probably true of like the Philippines too, and like
know.
of Java and Guam, like all those islands. I bet are just like exactly
Death
the same
traps.
as Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I bet New
traps.
Zealand is just as dangerous.
New
what
Zealand,
I mean?
New Zealand is beautiful.
Yeah,
It's not
Well,
actually.
Australia's-
It's not as
Australia's
bad
not.
as Australia, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
Like,
But then
That's
why
it-
is
see,
it that
that's
we
interesting.
read about that? Like that's what I thought too, and I don't see nearly like, oh, New Zealand's out to kill you. No, it's always Australia.
Australia's got bad PR people.
It's got some, yeah, for some like. So there's just a couple other, like two other points that So it's like, okay, so you have all this venomous stuff, but I think it doesn't have to be venomous. I think the thing that really scares me the most is there was this in July of this year, there was this video that went viral. It was picked up by news organizations. This couple who were just barbecuing in some Australian suburb, and they're in the barbie, and they're looking through their screen door because it's just the barbecue's right on the porch, and in the screen door, in like one of the sliding doors,
Is a
the
shadow
top-
person.
I would fucking take the shadow person at this point. Is at least a 3 foot by 3 foot spider. It's a 3 foot by 3 foot huntsman spider. Now, huntsman spider is not, I'm sure it's toxic too, but it's not aggressively so. It's just that fucking big. And so they get out their phones and they're filming it. And if you go online and Google huntsman spider traps couple, it'll come up. And it's so hysterical because the video of them is just kind of them watching it, and it's getting pissed off because they're trying to shoo it away. So it's coming closer and closer and down the screen, and it's so big. It's like they hold up their cat, which, Chris, looks a lot like Chippy. I will just say.
No!
Yes, they hold up their cat so their cat can see it. It's as big as their cat. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you trying to feed it the cat? The cat's looking at me like, I'm not doing anything with that. Fuck you, like, and then they were just talking about it, and they were like, oh, yes, it was so big, we named it Aragog after the, whatever. And I'm like, here's the thing, you don't fucking give it a nickname, you burn the house down. Like, you just walk outside and you just burn the house down.
They couldn't get outside.
Well, that's it. Like, you know what? We're all going up then, like, so we just can't let this thing go out. And they're like, do you think it lives in the garden? And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, that's insane. Like, it was so big that I don't think it's not something like you could just hit it with a flip-flop and kill it. Like, it has mass.
Yeah, you need like a crossbow.
Sword or something good.
Or a shotgun or something. And again, nothing good's going to come out of that, right? My only other fear, well, not my only other fear with Australia, but I would say one kind of a more interesting fear, but is still kind of really spooky and scary, is more of a human fear. And I don't know if Chris or Dave Flora, if you've ever heard of it. It's called the Banjawan incident in 1993. There is reports of a Japanese doomsday cult, the Om Shiriko, actually detonating a warhead. In Australia. In Australia, they actually detonated a warhead, they think. It was like May 1993. There was sort of reports in the outback of like all this seismic activity, and they didn't know what it was.
You said it was Om Shinrikyo?
Yes.
That cult?
Yes.
Yeah, it's there. They're completely...
Yes.
There's a really great last podcast on the left episode on that.
Oh, really?
They're terrifying.
Yeah, I would say if you're gonna detonate a warhead, you're up there.
Yeah, they were like straight up supervillains. They're responsible for the worst biochemical attack in history, I believe.
In Tokyo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, terrifying.
So where did they set it off in Australia?
So they set it off in basically in the outback. They bought a sheep farm, and they bought this sheep farm, and then they just began to bring in different supplies, and they were like stocking up, and nobody really knew anything about it. They were basically building a laboratory, and then all of a sudden, there was a huge disturbance that like was ground shaking, and nobody knew exactly what it was until they started to dig into it and look into it more, and like basically they were finding out that they had been trying to buy nukes from Russia, and they think it could have been it actually could have been a detonation. But because Australia is so damn big and everything else is trying to kill you actively, you kind of take your eyes off of the ball of like, hey, how about a doomsday cult? Doomsday cult out in the desert on a sheep farm. Yeah, they're there too. So there you go. I think that to me, that's plenty to be scared of.
It's a pretty good one.
Sure.
It's pretty good. Australia's a good fear.
Australia.
Nice. All right. Well, it's my turn, I guess.
Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is rough. All right. So, like you guys said, a lot of my fears fit into like a single kind of category, I suppose. But my category is sort of like just a general loss of control over things that happen to you, right? Mm-hmm. And then also like the idea that you could make a mistake that is permanent and can never be undone. That, like, I know that's kind of like meta. That scares the shit out of me, right? So I'm going to give some examples here. When I was a kid, and even to this day, I have extremely vivid nightmares. And one repeating nightmare I always have is I'm just like doing something normal, and I see a UFO, and once you see the UFO, it's like something I know that once you see it, it means that they're gonna come and try to get you. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole dream is like me dreading that this UFO is gonna come and get me. That's the whole dream. And like, I've never seen a UFO in real life. Maybe I've seen some like weird lights or whatever, but you know, who the hell knows what they were? But that has always been a terrifying thing for me, is the idea of like, you see something that then you can't unsee, and whatever it was that you looked at knows you saw it and has to come and like get you.
Yeah.
And has to like remove that memory from your brain somehow.
Are you watching?
Right?
Are you watching Stranger Things too? By the way,
I am going to, Marie, no spoilers.
Not.
I'm
Just
in the
saying.
middle of it.
I'm not saying anything else. I'm just saying. You might want to take a Xanax before watching that one.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. So another aspect of that actually has to do with my job, which is chemistry, right? Like chemical engineering. And so one of my biggest fears, actually, because my third one is like pretty stupid. I actually do have a list of 10 things, but since they all kind of fit together, and one of my biggest fears is unprepared podcast guests and co-hosts. I'm just not gonna get into it, but so no, just kidding. I'm just kidding, you guys. Come on, it's been phenomenal. So I'm just kidding. I love you guys. So okay, so I'm gonna read to you the story of Karen Wetterhahn, and this is from Wikipedia, but this is her story, and it's terrifying. Okay. On August 14th, 1996, Wetterhahn, a specialist in toxic metals, was studying the way mercury ions interact with DNA repair proteins, and she was investigating the toxic properties of another highly toxic heavy metal, cadmium. She was using it as a reference standard. This is the dimethylmercury compound that she was working with. She was using dimethylmercury as a reference standard for mercury nuclear magnetic resonance measurements, which is basically like a way to do chemical analysis where you can, like, you basically, you can tell how a thing is bonded by the way that its neutron or its basically how its nucleus will respond to magnetic waves, pretty much. And so it's like it'll spin or it'll show a different kind of vibration than it normally would if it's unbonded versus in what oxidation state, whatever. Doesn't matter. Wetterhahn would recall that she had spilled 1 or 2 drops of dimethylmercury from the tip of a pipette onto her latex gloved hand. Not believing herself in any immediate danger, as she was taking all recommended precautions, she proceeded to clean up the area prior to removing her protective clothing. However, tests later revealed that dimethylmercury can, in fact, rapidly permeate different kinds of latex gloves and enter the skin within about 15 seconds. The exposure was later confirmed by hair testing, which showed a dramatic jump in mercury levels 17 days after the initial accident, peaking at 39 days, followed by a gradual decline. Approximately 3 months after the initial incident, Wetterhahn began suffering brief episodes of abdominal discomfort and noted a significant weight loss. The more distinctive neurological symptoms of mercury poisoning, including loss of balance and slurred speech, appeared in January 1997, 5 months after the accident. At this point, tests proved that she was suffering from debilitating mercury intoxication. Her urinary mercury content had risen to 234 micrograms per liter. Its normal range is from 1 to 5, and the toxic level is greater than 50 micrograms per liter.
Jesus.
Despite aggressive therapy, her condition rapidly deteriorated. 3 weeks after the first neurological symptoms appeared, Wetterhahn lapsed into what appeared to be a vegetative state, punctuated by periods of extreme agitation. Wetterhahn was removed from life support and died on June 8, 1997, less than a year after her initial exposure.
Dude.
So, this chemical dimethylmercury is considered one of the most dangerous in the world. It can make its way through gloves, through lab coats, through anything. It's very easy to get into the body. And the thing is that what it does is it actually makes its way through the blood-brain barrier. It's one of the few chemicals that actually can do that. Now, this part's actually really interesting, too. There had been previous documented cases of death due to dimethylmercury poisoning. In 1865, 2 English lab assistants died several weeks after helping to synthesize dimethylmercury for the first time. In 1972, a 28-year-old chemist in Czechoslovakia had suffered the same symptoms as Wetterhahn after synthesizing 6 kilograms of the compound. So this stuff, enough of it to just like get a smell that it's even out of its jar, is enough to kill you.
Yeesh.
See, it's
so
terrifying.
Why are? Can I just ask, why are you messing with it then? Like, why are they?
So-
Why are they
so-
going? Why are they finding it? Why is that like?
So when Wetterhahn died in 96, or 97, I suppose, they didn't know that it was so dangerous. Because that's the thing. You don't know, like, it was part of a new class of compounds. It was actually part of the kind of compounds that I worked for, metal organic compounds.
Oh, dude.
Right?
Yeah.
So these things, we don't know how they operate in the body because no one's ever made them before, right? So currently it's not used for almost anything. It has like no uses practically because it's so dangerous, right? And the thing is that it's not only dangerous as like a liquid, it vaporizes so readily in air that it's like it's not even worth it to have it anywhere near you, right? And so this is from the second line from Wikipedia on it. Dimethylmercury is described as having a slightly sweet smell, although inhaling enough vapor to detect its odor would be hazardous. Yeah, no shit, it would be hazardous. It would kill you. So,
But it smells so good.
so there's something about that, like, there's something about the idea that you could get a chemical on your glove, or like you could be kind of like what Dave was saying about infestations. Like,
Yeah.
you could have this thing get into your body and you would get sick without knowing what the hell caused it.
Or even if you have taken the precautions, is what it
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah,
like.
exactly. Yeah, like there's the only way to be safe from dimethylmercury is
Is to not,
use it.
yeah, is to get away from it.
yeah,
So-
is to not have it near you.
Let me
It's
ask
to
you
not
this.
be in your industry at all.
How
Well, the thing, we don't use it. Yeah, so
I know.
continue. Go ahead.
Sorry.
how easy is it to come by or make?
It's it is. That's actually a really good question.
Asking for a
It's-
friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the interesting thing is it's so its original synthesis paper is still out there. It would not be hard to synthesize in a lab in the sense that you could do it if you could get your hand on some mercury.
Uh-huh.
But mercury, the thing is, if you synthesize it, you will die.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's you would need, so in the lab we have, like, I'm kind of being a little bit over dramatic here. Like, we had chemicals in our lab that were the same toxicity level as dimethylmercury, right? Where contact with the skin would kill you within a week, right? For us, it was an organic compound that thankfully I only had to use like a couple times. But the way, the precautions that you take with those are you use them only in a hood, which a chemical hood, for those that don't know, is like, you know, on The Simpsons when he uses that glove, like the box with the gloves in it, that's called a glove box. It's similar to what a hood is, except a hood doesn't have holes for your arms. It's like a sash that kind of comes down,
Yeah.
so you can work with all the gases that are going up. But like for that compound and the one that we used, you have to use a glove box. It has to be like, it pumps the gas out and it goes through a bunch of filters to make sure nothing comes out, and like, you know, there's no way your hands can contact it sensibly because it's non-porous rubber. It's non-porous gloves, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's pretty scary. And like there are other chemicals like that are fucking terrifying. Like there's, I don't know if you guys know what I want to make sure it's the right chemical I'm thinking of. Methanol. Methanol, when it burns, do you guys know what color it is?
It's blue, right?
Oh. I'm going to say green.
Methanol burns invisible.
Oh, nobody.
Trick
It has
question.
it was a trick question.
Deadly
It has an
trick question.
it has an invisible flame. So there's actually a really famous video online of a like an IndyCar race. I think it was IndyCar. I'm not super good on car racing stuff, so I'm not sure, but whatever, it's a car race. There are cars there. It's car adjacent. And you see these people in the pit, like they all of a sudden start like rubbing their hands on themselves and looking like something's wrong. And it turned out that there was a it turned out that there was a methanol fire and you couldn't see it.
Yikes.
And it's actually another thing, like in chemical plants, they say when you're working with methanol and there's a fire and you don't know you can't see it. So the only way to be sure of where you're going is if you basically have to just get to the ground as far as you can and crawl the whole time. Because the methanol flame, you can't see it, but it's probably up in the air away from you because it's less dense than air is. So that's scary.
Dude, that's
Man.
terrifying.
I didn't mean to scare you guys so bad. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, the fabric of everything that matter is built upon. Yeah, that's pretty scary when you mess with that, I guess.
Yeah.
It is pretty. It's pretty fucking scary. So my other thing that's less scary is doppelgangers,
Oh, sure.
which my Katie, my wife, thinks is a stupid fear. It's like she has never been chased by a doppelganger in her dreams as I have. So I used to have this dream when I was a kid so my house, like a lot of houses in Staten Island, were built by people with really terrible taste. But also, like my house, you walk into my mom's house, and I'm not even kidding, there is a ginormous, the whole wall is mirror on the right hand side.
Is it a split level ranch?
It is split. It's not a ranch. It's like a dual house. Like so, we have our house is like connected to our neighbor's house directly by a wall.
Duplex.
Yeah, duplex.
So duplex. Yeah, it's a duplex. Okay, fine. So, anyways, I used to have this nightmare when I was a kid because our house, the way that it's set up with the heating, there's like a hot water heater in the basement, and so as that goes up through the pipes, it makes like a knocking sound on the wall.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Sure.
And when I was a kid, I didn't know what that knocking was. Like, I had no idea. And I, for some weird little kid reason, had convinced myself that no one else in the house was hearing it because no one ever talked about it.
Oh.
Right? But it's like one of those things where it's like, you don't talk about the noise the wind makes going through the trees unless you're, like, trying to be, gothic and spooky. Right? Unless you're, like, in high school with black eyeliner on and whatever. Like little Chris was. So no, I never wore eyeliner, but I did wear a trench coat. Anyways, so yeah, so like I thought that this banging noise was like no one else heard it, and I was like, it's got to be a ghost, right? And so when I would sleep at nighttime, I would hear the knocking or the bumping on the wall,
And then the whispers.
so I never. What's the thing? It was never anything more than just a knocking on the wall, right? But so I misinterpreted it in a way that it was knocking, and as I was sleeping, I had a dream where my next door neighbor Joe, who is an absolute great guy, total sweetheart, always been really nice to me and my family my whole life.
Also a ghost, but that's neither here nor there.
He would also a ghost. So he would knock. He was in my dream. It was not Joe. It was a doppelganger looking like Joe, who always smiled at me with this big like toothy grin, and he would just be outside like, "Oh, I'm not doing anything weird, Chris. I'm just fixing your house," and he'd just be like knocking on it with a hammer.
Oh yeah.
And it was like clearly that this doppelganger Joe was trying to look at me through the window and get to me through the window.
Oh.
Dude.
But in my dreams, it was like, oh god, it was so scary. And so, and then those dreams kind of progressed where it was like you'd go down to the kitchen and my mom would be cooking, and then I'd hear from upstairs, I'd hear like, Chris, and I'd be like, oh, you're not my mom, and then she'd look at me and like her eyes wouldn't have any pupils.
Dude.
They'd be like, ah, right. And my mom definitely has pupils. I can guarantee that. So, yeah. So, like, all these dreams or whatever. And so when Katie, like, we were talking, I forget when, we were talking about, like, our fears or whatever, and she was like, I think we saw that stupid thing on Reddit or on, whatever, some website where it was, like, the Grinning Man copy pasta.
Yeah.
Right? And so I saw that picture, and I was like, oh, I've had dreams like that, right? And, Katie was like, well, tell me about them. And I told her, and she was like, those are stupid and lame. They're not scary. So, a rough lifestyle for me. But yeah, doppelgangers. Terrifying. I don't care what anyone says.
So what do you think?
Those are my fears.
What do you in your dreams? What actually were doppelgangers? Were they aliens, or were they like underground reptilians that have come to the surface to take over everyone? Or like
when I was a kid, I was really afraid of demons.
like
Like that was like one of my big like, because when I was a kid, I've said this before too. My family was like kind of my family was like trying to be religious. I think just so I would get the gifts from my relatives when I got confirmed. You know,
Good racket. Nice racket.
There was a lot of communion money involved, so it was like you're gonna go to church every fucking weekend, right? So, like, but when I was little, like when I was really, I'd say until like maybe the age of 10, I really believed all that stuff, right? And so, yeah, like I was really afraid that like a demon was, again, the same idea, like you could screw up and a demon would possess you. You know, it would have nothing to like. You would think like, man, Jesus is looking pretty stupid today, and be like, damn, possessed.
Boom!
got him finally. The door's open.
Right.
Come on, boy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the door is
It's
open.
all
It's
gravy from here, boys.
Oh my god. So it was pretty. Yeah. So it's like, and so a lot of my fears have still had the same notion, right? So like you talked about, Dave, house fires, right?
Sure.
I will never forget this dream. I had a dream. So I always have this recurring dream where a lot of these dreams I know have to do with my anxiety, or like I know that's what they're linked to. So it's like, so I actually call them like anxiety dreams, right? Like, I'm sure other people call them that too. I'm sure other people with my same like anxiety things, whatever, have these same symptoms. I'm not like, I made up the word anxiety dreams, but one recurring one is like a fire is starting, or I know it's going to start, but I either don't choose to stop it or I can't. So one is like in the basement of my house again, there's a pilot light on that water heater. And so the dream would be, I know that there's something flammable next to that pilot light, but I keep being like, no, it's not, there's not going to be a fire. Nothing's going to happen. But like in my dream, I'm like in one room being like, nothing's wrong here. And then it cuts to the basement where it's a raging fire. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
in one of those dreams, though,
It's a very topical dream, by the way.
Is a very topical dream. In the basement, yeah, it is. I'm trying to stop the dumpster fire, but I'm like, it's all fine.
Everything's
right.
fine.
I'm just gonna keep pretending like I'm a normal senator and I don't have a fucking responsibility to be ethical to the people of America. So, that's our political joke for the show. We're sorry for those that we've offended, which we always seem to do.
I'm scared of offending people. No.
No. So the dream, there's a fire in the basement, and I'm like, nothing's happening here. I'm upstairs playing Xbox or whatever, and then I decide to go downstairs to try to stop it, and I have a hose or like a fire extinguisher, but I can't shoot it at the fire, or like I keep missing or something. And Hank Hill and Bobby Hill from King of the Hill are in the basement as cartoons behind me, being like, "Put it out, Chris."
Damn it, Chris. Put that
Yeah,
fire out.
I'm like, I can't. And he's like,
Help him.
"Oh, that boy ain't right."
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think our
guys.
time for this session is up, Chris. I'm going to put you down for an extra visit tomorrow. No.
My other greatest fear, therapist costs. Too high.
No,
Too
that's-
damn high.
Dude, my anxiety level's gone up. I think I'm going to need a little drink after this.
Let's take a little drinky poo.
Hey,
This
look
is
at me
bad.
after this.
This is bad. Well, all right, guys. Well, thank you, listeners, for listening to this episode of the Mad Scientist Roundtable.
As we laid on your couch.
Yes, as we basically bared our souls. I hope it didn't scare you too badly. I know I'm scared, though, so,
Well,
it's pretty...
tis the season.
Tis the season to get
Scare
spooky.
it
That is
up.
very true.
Scare it up, motherfuckers.
Scare it up. I got to thank Dave. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yes,
Appreciate
thank you,
it.
Dave.
Yeah,
That was
have
fun.
Yeah. Listeners, again, listen to Blurry Photos. It's awesome. It's a great show. One of the best out there. One of the best shows on Dark Myths. Go check them out. And listeners, we have a special musical outro this week. Again, it's Amazing Transparent Man, one of my favorite punk bands from when I was a kid. So we're going to listen to that one now as well. Dave, anything you want to say about your show? Any upcoming stuff you guys got going on?
Oh, let's see. What are we doing? We just did we just recorded our ghost stories, our annual ghost stories, and so
Nice.
that's coming up soon. Got a lot of fun stuff in the cut. So, I mean, just jump on board and try and hang on.
All right, well, that sounds good. Nice. All right, well, listeners, thank you again so much, and we'll be back in a week with our next episode.
Happy Halloween.
Therapy.